Hello my scholars, you're welcome to my school YouTube channel. My name is Emmanuel and in today's video we'll be tackling JAMB CBT past question in biology for the year 2024. Please don't go anywhere, stick around and we'll be right back. You're welcome back to my school YouTube channel. In today's video, we'll be tackling question 101 to 117. Now let's get down to question 101. The endocrine gland that is called the master gland is the what? When we talk about master gland, the gland that controls every other activities of the endocrine glands in the body. Of course, like you know, we have the thyroid gland present at the neck region, we have the pancreas gland present at the stomach, we have the pituitary gland, of course, present at the lower part of the brain, of course, connected to the nose, and then we have the adrenal gland also. So all of these are different types of gland. We have the gland also responsible for the reproductive, organs that we have, or reproductive gametes that we have in humans or in animals. Okay, so the master gland is the gland that controls every other activities. That's why we call it the master gland, and it is no other gland than the pituitary gland because it is situated in the brain. Okay, so it controls every other activities of the endocrine gland. So the pituitary gland is the endocrine gland that is called the master gland. The correct answer is option C. Question 102. Which of the following characteristics is possessed by both living and non-living things? Of course, what are the characteristics that are common in both living things and non-living? Option A says both age and die. Of course, well, they can age with duration of time, but talking about death, it is only living things that have life that can die. So option A is nullified. Option A is not correct. Option B says both have life. Well, if both of them have life, then we will not have non-living things. So it is only living things that have life. Non-living things do not have life. So option B is also eliminated. Option C says both have weight. Yes, both have weight. Well, when we talk about having weight, we talk about matters. Generally, we said matters are substances or they are anything that have mass or weight and that occupy space. So whether they are living things, they have weight. Whether they are non-living things, they have weight. So option C is correct. Let's look at option D. Both have no shape. Of course, that is not true. So the correct answer here is option C. Both have weight because they are matters. Option C is the correct answer. Now let's move on to question number 103. 103. Infectious diseases are caused by what? When we talk about infectious diseases are diseases usually that are caused by microorganisms invading into the body of other organisms. Okay, we talk about microorganisms like bacteria, like fungi, like viruses, like other parasites, okay, that get into the body of the organism and then they begin to live in there, they begin to multiply, they breathe in there, they do all their metabolic activity in that place. And when they do that, they begin to break down the cells, okay, in the, and when they break down cells, they cause infectious diseases to invade, they cause infection to take place in the body of the organism. So such microorganisms are, like I said, could be bacteria, could be viruses, could be fungi, could be other parasites. So option A says bacteria, yes, more likely. Option B says protists. Option C says amoeba. Option D says protozoa. So the correct answer is option A, bacteria. Question number 104. The cell organelle responsible for the synthesis of protein is the what? Of course, if you have been going through a past question and answer will be tackling, you will discover that we have talked about this question so many times. It has been repeated over the years. Okay, synthesis of protein usually is associated with no other organelle of the cell than the ribosome. That is the site for synthesis of protein. Okay, we talk about option A, say centriole. Centriole is the organelle that is responsible for the formation of an arrangement of the cilia and the flagella, okay, of the organism. That's what the centriole does. The vacuole, the vacuole is the organelle that is responsible for transportation, movement, and then management of wastes, okay, in the body of the organism. It's the vacuole that's responsible for that. Option C says plastid. Plastid is the part of the organelle of the cell, usually, that is responsible for carrying out metabolic activities like photosynthesis and other activities in the body of the plant cells, usually. So we have it present in the plant cells. And then we have option D, which is ribosome. Ribosome is the organelle in animal cells and plant cells that is responsible for synthesis of protein. So the correct answer is option D, ribosomes. Now on to question number 105. We have a diagram here, and of course, if you look at this diagram, we have this is a flower vase there. We have a plant, okay, and then you can see that this whole place is covered in a jar, kind of, okay, in a container, and then there is here, like there's a space here, okay. The other places are not, and then you see the plant tending towards, bending, okay, towards this part where we have air coming in, light coming in, okay, through this point, and then you see it coming. These are kind of what we call movements, okay. We call them directional growth movements that takes place in plants. Now the question says the diagram demonstrates what? Option A says stigmotropism, phototropism, geotropism, hygrotropism. All of these are different directional, growth movements that takes place in plants, but varies because of what happens. For stigmotropism is a type of directional growth movement that takes place when the plant, responds to what we call mechanosensory, response. When we talk about mechanosensory response, mechanical stimuli like a touch, okay, you touch the plant and then it tries to what? It responds. For instance, we talk about Mimosa pudica, okay. Mimosa pudica is a plant that, the leaves are just open. Once you touch it, what happens? The leaf will just close down like that, okay. That can be said to be an example of plants that undergoes stigmotropism. So when there is mechanosensory response, okay, there's a touch, okay, on that plant, what happens? There is a response from that plant, you see. So that's stigmotropism. When we talk about phototropism, of course, from the word photo means light, okay. There's light coming in, maybe through a vacuum or through a space, okay, where as it comes in, what happens? You see the light, the plant tending towards that direction where light is coming in from. That is phototropism, okay. It's a directional growth movement also, because of course you know that the plant actually needs light, needs sunlight for what? For photosynthesis to manufacture their own food, okay. So it needs light. So you see the plant tending towards that direction where light is coming in from. Then we have geotropism. Geotropism has to do with a directional growth movement of the plant where it is tending towards what? The force of what? Of gravity. You see the plant tending towards where the gravity is of Earth is beginning to tend towards that point. And the last one is what? Hydrotropism. For the word hydro means water. Okay, so when there's water concentration, in the part of the soil, for instance, you see the roots of the plant tending towards that direction because it needs water to manufacture its food or carry out photosynthesis, process also. So among all of this, that being what it means now, if you look at this plant, this diagram very well, you see that every other place is covered. The only place that is open is this, and then you see the plant tending towards it. What is it looking for? Light, because all this place will be dark, but this is where the source of light is coming from. So which has to do with what? A directional movement, a directional growth movement that has to do with what? Responsible for what? For light. It tends towards light, and in response to that stimuli of the light. So, and which is what? Phototropism. So the correct answer is option B. Do you know you can take practice questions with our simulated JAMB CBT past questions? All you need to do is to click on the link in the description below that takes you to the Myschool website. There you'll be able to download the Myschool mobile app on your Androids and the Myschool software on your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Now let's move on to question 106. Which of the following factors can lead to overcrowding? Of course, when there's overcrowding can be when we have limited resources and then you have more than the population of the organisms that are living in that particular community or environment. Option A says emigration. If the number of organisms that are in that community begins to move away, emigration has to do with what? Moving away, moving out of that community. Of course, if the number of organisms or the organisms that are in that community begins to move out, we cannot have overcrowding, because the number of organisms there will definitely reduce. So we cannot have overcrowding. So option A is eliminated. Option B says competition. Well, competition will not lead to overcrowding. Instead, it is overcrowding that will lead to competition. Okay, when there is limited supply of resources that are needed in the environment, okay, and then you have a larger number of organisms, more than maybe they are competing. Of course, it now leads to competition for space. Okay, they lead to competition of food, because there's shortage of food, of resources, of water, and whatever, things that could be responsible for them to live and adapt in that environment. Okay, so overcrowding is what leads to competition, but the question is, which of these leads to overcrowding? So option B is also eliminated. Option C says high natality. Natality rate has to do with the rate at which children are born. Okay, offspring are born, new offspring are born, are generated, are reproduced in the environment. Okay, and then once there is high natality rate, that means we have more young ones coming in, and then we are going to have more organisms living in that community or in that environment, and then it leads to what? Overcrowding. Okay, and then option D says high mortality. Mortality has to do with death rate. Okay, if death rate reduces, death rate decreases, what happens? We discover that the number of people or organisms living in that environment will also decrease. Okay, so it will not lead to overcrowding. So among these options now, the correct answer is option C, high natality. I believe you are enjoying this content. If yes, please don't forget to click on the like button, hit the subscribe button, and finally tap on the notification bell to keep you informed once we upload our next video. Now let's move on to question 107. The common examples of trees found in the desert are what? When we talk about desert, desert is a place where we have limited supply of water, little water is present there, or no water at all. Okay, and then you know that organisms in that place, or the trees that are there, because we're talking about trees found in the desert, okay, they develop what we call adaptive features, okay, that make them adapt into that environment. Of course, we have limited supply of water in the desert, so because of that, they have thick barks. Okay, they develop thick barks that can help them retain the little quantity or amount of water they have present in them. Okay, so we look at option A, says raffia palm and coconut. In fact, raffia palm will not go in a place where there's no water. Okay, it is a place, that's why you have them more in the tropical zone, where we have them. There is the tropical forest. That's where you have them, where you have more of the raffia palm and then coconut, where there is water, so that they can be able to, because they are roots usually are not too deep, okay, like we have in those ones of the desert plant. So option A is eliminated. Option B, we have baobab and cacti. Yeah, baobab and cacti are examples of plants or trees that grow in the desert. Okay, you see them, how big their trees. I think let's look at the diagram of the cacti. We call it, the plural is cacti, but the singular is cactus. Okay, so let's look at the diagram and see how it is. Okay, this is the diagram of the cactus tree, cactus, or we call it cacti if it is more than one, plural. Okay, you can see how big it is. You can see how the stem is. You can see even there's hollow here. You can see maybe the plant or somebody living around that been able to perforate and to cut off this because it is dry. Okay, if it were wet, it would have been difficult to be able to chop off this and then get into this. So this like a door has even been created here, okay, to tell you that there's a vacuum inside of this tree. You can see it here. Look at how the branches are. They are dried because they lack water. Even though you can see the branches, there are no leaves on them. This is how the trees in the desert look like. So this is the cacti, or the cactus, tree. So let's move on back to the options. Okay, so baobab and cacti actually are examples of trees that can grow, that are commonly found in the desert. Option C says white and red mangrove. The white and red mangrove usually will grow more where there are rain, where we have the tropical tropical rainforest, like we have the savanna. We have them growing in those parts of this, but not places where we have limited supply of water. They will not do well there. We have shea butter and the isobelina. Isobelina is found usually of course, if you come to Nigeria, we have them in the northern part, like we have them in Kano, in Kaduna. We can have them in Kwara, like the shea butter tree. You see them, okay, in places where, but not a place where it's totally, dry or where there are no waters. Okay, you see them going because you see their leaf, going up and that. So the common examples of trees found in the deserts are not option A, not C, not D. It's the baobab and cactus. So the correct option is option B. Question 108. If the F1 generation, that's the first filial generation, allows for self-pollination, what will be the genotypic ratio of the offspring? Yes, we've been dealing with questions on genotype, phenotype, of crossing between two parents, maybe the same plants or other organisms. Okay, so I think we need an illustration to actually show forth what happens in the first filial generation. Okay, the genotypic ratio as well as the phenotypic. So let's move on to the board now. So we'll just let's take TT, okay, to actually represent tallness. Okay, that's a trait of tallness because we're talking about for self-pollination. Okay, so let's say a tall plant, okay, then let's use TT, short T, to show that it is what? It is short, okay, short plant. Okay, so if we have a parent, okay, that is tall and then crossing with another one that is short. So the first thing to do is to separate this into gametes, okay, because we have during the meiosis, okay, we have the gametes, the sex gametes, separated. So we have this and this way, then we have the short one and then the short one. So what we'll do first is to cross, okay. When we cross, we have this one crossing to this side to have, of course, this is the gamete. Okay, we just have the gametes here. Okay, then we have T, and then the short one, T. Then we have this one also crossing to meet this man here. So we have T here and this. Okay, so we are done with this now. So let's move on to this now. This one crosses to this one. We also have T and T. Okay, and then we have this one also crossing to this guy here, and then we have this. So if you notice here, you discover that we have heterozygous allele. We have the same. When we say heterozygous, we have a short, a tall and short, tall and short, tall and short, tall and short. So what we'll do is we'll bring out one from this point. Okay, we can bring out this one to be T and T. Okay, and then we want to cross it together with, we bring any one of these. This is just two of them. So we have T and T. So what we'll do is to separate them into gametes because we are talking about what? First filial generation, F1 generation. So we separate them to gametes again. We have small t, capital T and small t here. Then we have capital T here, and then we have small t here. Okay, so when we cross them for the first filial generation, what happens? We have this crosses to this. We have T, T, okay, then capital. Then we have this crossing here to meet this. We have capital T and small t. Okay, we are done with that. So let's move to this one now. This and this now. We have capital T and the small t. Okay, then we have this also. Moving to this side now, we have a small t and small t. Okay, so now we have this is homozygous tallness. When we say homozygous, the same. Okay, so tallness. Here we have heterozygous. This one is dominant. This is recessive. Okay, this one is the one that is well pronounced. Then we have another one here, tall and short. Then we have for what? This is homozygous for what? For shortness. So if we're talking about phenotypic ratio, okay, though they didn't ask us that, but let us put the two into consideration. Should in case the question changes in some other time, then we have what? Genotypic ratio from genotype. Genotypic ratio we have for the first one. Okay, genotypic ratio is looking at what is expressed. Okay, whether it is dominant, or whether it is homozygous. Okay, whether it is heterozygous, all the traits for tallness. For this point, this is one tallness because we have T here, capital T here, capital T and capital T here. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we have about 3 of them. So this is ratio 3:1 because it's just this one that is short. There's no tallness in this at all. So this is what? Ratio 1. But for genotypic ratio, okay, we look at the homozygous, and then the one that is heterozygous, and then the one that is what? Homozygous for tallness. The one that is just the capital letter T is just one of that. So we have ratio 1 here, okay, is to, then we have heterozygous tallness, then with the shortness, you have 1 to 2 of that, okay? So we have ratio 2, and then the third one we have here is just homozygous for what? Shortness, just T. There's no capital T here, and there's no T, so this is just one of that. So we say that the phenotypic ratio is ratio 3:1, okay? And then the genotypic ratio is what? Ratio 1:2:1. The question says that what is the what? The first filial generation, the genotypic ratio of the offspring for the first filial generation, which is ratio 1:2:1. Now let's move on to the screen and see the options we have provided. Option A says ratio 1:2:1. Yes. 2:2, 3:1. 3:1 is the phenotypic ratio, and then 2:1:1. So the correct answer is option A, ratio 1:2:1. Now let's move on to question 109. The resemblance of an organism to another organism as means of enhancing its chances of survival in its habitat is known as what? The resemblance of an organism. You know, organisms in some areas, in any environment where they are found, tend to adapt, okay? Of course, while they are adapting, there are predators that live in that environment that want to feed on them, okay, as food, okay? So what those prey or those smaller organisms, what they do is to do what? To make up features, okay, to come up with two adaptive features that will make them to camouflage, okay, that can make them survive in that particular environment, okay. This one is talking about resemblances of organisms to another organism as means of what? Enhancing its chances. In a way, they camouflage, they change, okay. Option A says counter shading. Counter shading has to do with the type of camouflage where the organism tend to contrast the color. There's a dark part and then there's a what? Lighter part, like we have in the fishes, okay? The fishes, you know, we have them in the water. When the prey is coming forth, you see them, the part where the prey is, that's where they face, and then you see that place will be dark. We now blend with the water, with the environment, the dark color, and then the other part is where the what? The light is, and then the organisms then cannot be able to. So that is not, they are not trying to resemble another organism. What they are just doing is what? Contrasting what? Their color, okay, so that it can blend with the environment. So option A is not the answer. So we can what? We can eliminate that. Option B says protective coloration. Protective coloration could just be that, you know, of course, as the name implies, there are some colors. You know, the organism will just bring up a color that can protect them, okay, that other organisms sees them and then will not be able to. Like we have, sometimes we talk about green snake under green grass. You have the snake will just be there, okay, just to protect itself from the prey that is, you know, the predator that is coming to feed on it. Then it becomes so difficult for you to be able to what? To see. It's a kind of camouflage. Option C says mimicry. Of course, mimicry. To mimic is what? To look like, to resemble another organism, okay, that looks at that, so that in a way they will not be discovered so, you know, so fast by the predators that is coming in. So option C, mimicry, of course, is the resemblance of an organism to another organism as a means of enhancing its chances of survival, so that the predator does not feed on them and then devour them. Option D has to do with what? Warning. Some organisms, you know, sometimes you can have some snakes, you know, for instance, you just see them the way they are, they have venom, okay, that they begin to spout out, so that, you know, when you see, you want to work, of course, it gets to your eyes, you feel the poison. So they are warning. So that's an example of what? Warning. So we talk about the resemblance of organisms to another organism as a means of enhancing its chances of survival in its habitat is known as mimicry. So the correct answer is option C. Now on to question 110. The urinary tubules opens into a proximal convoluted tubule coils to form distal by making a what? Of course, when we talk about the proximal convoluted tubule, all of these ones, okay, convoluted, and the distal convoluted tubule, they are found in the kidney, okay. And what the kidney does, you know, usually we talk about filtering of the blood. Okay, in the kidney, the nephron of the kidney, we have what we call the Bowman's capsule. We have what we call, other things that are found in there. We have the endless loop, we have the, glomerular, and so on and so forth. So what happens is that the urinary tubules will open into a proximal convoluted tubule and coils to form a kind of U-shaped, loop. Okay, that U-shaped loop is what we call the loop of Henle or Henle's loop. Okay, Henle's loop of the loop of Henle. So what happens is that the loop of Henle is what is responsible for diluting the urine and also establishing an osmotic balance there in the body. It regulates the osmoregulation of that particular water. So the urine, what happens is that the urine is being diluted by the Henle's loop. Okay, so the Henle loops eventually moves coils into a U shape. Don't forget that what the proximal convoluted tubule does is to move, transport fluid usually, okay, into the what? Into the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so what we are saying in essence is that the urinary tubules opens into a proximal convoluted tubule, coils to form distal, by making a U-shaped loop, which is called the Henle's loop. So the correct answer here is not A, it's not B, it's not I. The correct answer is option C, U-shaped loop. Now on to question 111. A discontinuous morphological variation often used in crime detection is the, of course, you can just go for the right answer, but let's explain what variation has to do with first. Okay, variation has to do with changes that occur in organisms. Okay, usually we can have what we call continuous variation and discontinuous variation. When we talk about continuous variation are characteristics, okay, that are found in the species that vary, okay, within a wide range. Okay, it can vary. When we talk about varying, it does not have a distinct value. It can range. For instance, the height, okay, of human beings can vary, of organisms. Somebody can have a height of 1.58 meters, another person can have a height of 2 meters, another person can have 1.1, another person can have 6 feet. Okay, you had 6 feet, so it has a wide range. It does not have a beginning and it does not have an ending. Okay, so it varies. So that is continuous. It's like the weight also. Somebody can measure about 60 kg, another person can measure weigh about 70 kg, another person 50, another person 30. So it has a wide range. So those are examples of continuous variation. But when we talk about discontinuous variation are actually distinct. Okay, they don't have the wide range like we have in continuous. They are distinct. For instance, the blood group of human, you should see that someone has a blood group that is A, or someone has AB, or someone has B, or someone has O. So every human will definitely fall in any of those blood groups. Another example of discontinuous can be in the color of the eye. Of course, the eye of the color can be either maybe black, some blue, or some brown. Okay, it has this. So it does not have it has distinct kind of voices. And then we have other examples of the discontinuous. But we are talking about, the question says a discontinuous morphological variation. Morphological has to do with what? Physical traits that can be seen, okay, that can be used. So option A says skin color. Skin color is, well, don't forget, it used in what? Crime detection. People can have different colors of skin. Okay, that somebody is dark today now, okay, can definitely work on the skin and become lighter tomorrow, and then the person cannot be featured, because we are talking about in crime detection. So option A is not correct, even though it is physical, it is morphological, but in crime detection it cannot, because this can be changed at any time to make it not to be distinct. Option B says blood group. Of course, blood group, like we said before, is an example of a discontinuous also, but this is not a physical, because we are talking about morphological variation. So this is not a physical, even though it is an example of discontinuous variation, but morphologically talking about the physical traits that we can see. Of course, you have to carry out tests to see this. So this also is not. Option C says fingerprints. Of course, fingerprints are distinct. Okay, no two human has the same fingerprints all over the world. Your fingerprint
is unique to you. Okay, so that's why when someone has done anything bad, maybe has gone to theft, or they need to capture the person, with fingerprints, they'll be able to capture whoever has done that, because everyone is unique to their fingerprint. Of course, that's a physical, that's a morphological variation. So option C is correct. Option D says eye color. Of course, even though eye color is a discontinuous variation, but morphologically it can be changed. Have you not heard of people that changed their eye? So among all of these options now, the discontinuous morphological variation that is used in crime detection is fingerprint. So the correct answer is option C. Now on to question 112. The component that serves as major buffer in blood is what? The component that serves as major buffer. When we talk about buffer, in the blood, okay, buffer is a chemical substance, okay, system in the blood that is present in the blood that helps to maintain the pH level of the body, okay? The pH level of the body helps to what? To balance it. So when an acid is added into the system, it balances it so that it does not have effect. When a base is added into the system, it balances it, it monitors, it regulates. We try to maintain, a balance, okay, in the blood of an organism. And for that, it is the plasma actually that is the major buffer in the blood. When we talk about, look at the options, we have plasma, we have erythrocyte. Erythrocyte, don't forget, is also the other name you refer to your red blood cells, okay? And red blood cells, they are the carrier of hemoglobin to get attached to what? To the oxygen that is present in the body to take it for the release of energy in the food. So we talk about erythrocyte, leukocytes, we'll be talking about, that's another white blood cells, and then we have the link from the lymphocyte. So all of this one, whether the red blood cell, the white blood cell, the platelets, they are all suspended in the plasma, okay? So that makes plasma to be the buffer, okay? The buffer that has the component that helps to balance up the pH level, okay, in changes to acid or basic in the body of the organism. So the component that serves as major buffer in blood is no other than plasma. So the correct answer is option A. Now let's move on to question 113. DNA carries the genetic information and are generally found in the what? Now when we talk about the DNA, of course, the full meaning of that is deoxyribonucleic acid, okay? There are types of nucleic acids that decode, for the genetic information that we have in that. So the DNA, usually we have them in strands, okay? We call them in helical, and then they wind around themselves, strand, and they are always in pairs, okay? They wind around themselves like this and forming helical chains, okay? That's how the DNA actually looks like. Now the DNA, has present in it the genes, okay? Genes are the carrier, the information, that they are the one that contain the information for inheritance, okay? The traits that are found in it. So the gene, of course, the building, blocks, the basic building blocks of life, we have them there. So the genes are present in the DNA, and the DNA is encoded, is inside of, or is enveloped inside the chromosomes. So what happens is that the chromosomes now protect it and then tries to monitor the kind of gene, okay, that is accessed. When is that gene accessed? The chromosome does all of that. So the DNA is found inside of is encoded inside of the chromosome, okay, to carry out the genetic information that is present. So they are generally found not in ribosomes. Ribosomes, don't forget, the site for protein synthesis. The chromosomes, yes, the chromosomes are what is supposed to be. Just like we said, we have in humans, we have about 23 pairs, okay, of chromosomes. Out of the 23 pairs, we have 22 pairs responsible for mitotic cell division. That's mitosis, okay, for the somatic cell, formation, okay, the body cells formation, the cell growth that's responsible. About 22 pairs out of the 23 pairs of inhuman chromosome are used, while the one pair remaining out of the 23 is responsible for the meiosis, okay, which is the growth, the cell division of the reproductive cell, okay, the sex cells that we have present in them. So we have the DNA carries the genetic information, and then they are generally found in the chromosome, not in the ribosome, not in the blood, not in the enzyme. So the correct answer is option B, chromosomes. If you have any question bothering your mind at all, please feel free to ask. All you need to do is to click on the link in the description below that takes you to the Myschool website. There you'll be able to ask your questions and solutions will be provided within the shortest period of time. Now let's move on to question 114. They use the diagram above to answer the question that follows. Recombination of genes at fertilization is represented by the part labeled what? Okay, we have these are the normal carriers, that's AA, and then we have the albino. Okay, albino is what we have here, represented with small letter A, AA. Okay, homozygous, and then we have this is heterozygous. So normal carrier we have capital A and small a. Now this one is just showing this letter part labeled I is actually showing the parents. Okay, the parent that has this normal carrier and then the one that is albino. So both of them together, and then we will have them divided here into gametes. When we talk about gametes, the sex cell, of course, when there's crossing, there's meeting between the male and the female. Okay, so that's why we have to separate them into gametes. So this arrows here, this one here are showing the gametes, okay, to show this. And then the III, we have there's a crossing now between A and this A now to form this. So which means that at this point now there's a recombination between this allele and then this allele. They cross together to form what? To form this. So this, of course, this is what we have as the offspring at the option 4. Fertilization takes place at this point because this is where the recombination takes place at fertilization. As they combine here, they form this offspring. They form this offspring and the ones we have here. So Roman figure 3 is going to be the part labeled for the recombination of genes at fertilization. Then Roman figure 4 is the part where we have the offspring that are actually produced. So the question says recombination of genes at fertilization is represented by the part labeled, not Roman figure 1, not 2, but 3, because this is where we have the fertilization taking place. There's a crossing here between A and A. So, and when the male gamete and female gamete mix, usually that is where fertilization takes place. So, there's a combination. So, Roman figure 3. So, option A, B, C. So, Roman figure 3 is option C. So, the correct answer is option C. Do you have better steps or solutions to all of the questions we've been solving? Please feel free to share. All you need to do is to go to the comment section, indicate the question number and the solution you wish to share. Now we are moving on to question 115 now, 115. Hemophilia in humans is controlled by the what? Is it by the blood group, the dominant gene, rhesus factor, recessive gene? When we talk about hemophilia, hemophilia is a kind of genetic blood disorder, okay, that takes place in humans. What happens? The person that is suffering from or that has this hemophilia will not be able to have blood clotting. The blood will not clot, and then will now cause bleeding, to stop, okay, to slow down, or in fact to begin to stop at a point. Now, people who are born with that has this hemophilia are actually born with it. They are passed on from parents to to offspring, and usually it is from the chromosomal recessive genes that it takes place. We know that in parents, for the male, usually for the female, we have the XX chromosomes, and then for the male, we have the XY chromosome. Okay, so if we have an altered gene, the male has the X-linked also chromosome, okay, present in it, has the X, linked chromosome present in it. So when we have the altered gene, okay, it can lead to what? The hemophilia, the offspring contacting that hemophilia, okay, and then usually that is why we discover that we have this hemophilia more in male children, in male offspring, because of the X-linked, recessive, gene that's responsible for that. So it makes it more pronounced among the male than the female counterparts. So we have that process. So when we talk about hemophilia in humans, it's controlled by not the dominant, because we have X-linked gene that is present in both the male and female. So it is not the dominant gene, it is not in the blood group, and it is not even in the rhesus factor, but it is in the recessive gene, okay, that is passed on. Don't forget, they are passed on from parents to the offspring, okay, and they are usually disorder. The hemophilia is a disorder, it's a genetic disorder that takes place in the blood, where the blood cannot clot, okay, or it stops bleeding, okay, or slows down bleeding rate. So the correct answer is option D, recessive gene. Now let's move on to question number 116. The part of the brain that receives sensory impulses of smell is the what? Okay, option A says olfactory lobe. Of course, olfactory lobe is actually the part of the brain. Of course, it is found in the brain that is responsible for the sense of smell, your ability to smell. Okay, it is the olfactory lobe that is actually connected to the brain that is responsible for that. Receive the sensory impulses of the smell is the olfactory lobe. Option B says medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, don't forget, is the part of the brain that has to control the heartbeat, okay, the heartbeat, the breathing rate, okay, the blood pressure. It is the medulla oblongata that does that, not for the impulse of smell. Then cerebrum. Cerebrum actually is the largest part of the brain, okay, usually helps in controlling emotion, helps in controlling learning, helps to control so many other activities that have to do with your ability to retain. Is done by the what? By the cerebrum, okay, not the impulse of the smell. Though the olfactory lobe is actually found in the cerebrum, okay, it is part of the cerebrum, but it is unique for its what? Ability to do what? To send impulses, to be able to smell impulses, okay, impulses of smell. It is olfactory lobe. And then the cerebellum is actually the part of the brain also that is responsible for movement, for maintaining balancing, okay, in the body of the organism. So the part of the brain that receives sensory impulses of smell is the olfactory lobe. So the correct answer is option A. Now let's move on to question number 117. Use the diagram above to answer the question that follows. Examples of non-vascular plants are labeled. Yes, I know you might not be able to see this. Don't worry, we have it drawn already on the board. So let's move on to the board so that we can have a clearer picture. We have the Mercantia, we have the Spirogyra, we have the Diopteris, we have the Cycads, then we have maize. Okay, so we have the question says that examples of non-vascular plants. Now, when we talk about the Mercantia actually belongs to the liverworts. Okay, it's a type of liverwort, okay, plants that we have, and you know that liverworts together with mosses are examples of the bryophyta. Okay, so we can say this one is a bryophyte, okay, because we need to analyze what plant kingdom they belong to. Of course, they are in the plant kingdom, but what division? Bryophyta, okay, or bryophytes, okay, let's say they are bryophytes. Then we have the Spirogyra. Spirogyra actually are, of course, they are non-vascular, simple algae family, okay, of course, which we can say that they are types of thallophytes. So we can say that these are the thallophytes. The Spirogyra are thallophytes in the kingdom, in the phylum Thallophyta, okay, thallophytes. And then we have the Diopteris. Diopteris, usually they have vascular bundles, yes, because they have they are able to have, of course, they have differentiated bodies. Like in this case now, these now have differentiated bodies. Like you can separate the part of the body from the root, but the thallophytes usually they don't have differentiated bodies. Okay, so and they are also non-vascular. They have no vascular bundles, no vascular tissue. But this one, Diopteris, belong to the pteridophytes. Okay, we call them pteridophyta. Okay, we say they are pteridophytes. So these are pteridophytes. And what their characteristics? They have, vascular bundles. They have differentiated bodies. Okay, of course, they don't develop fruits and they don't develop seeds. Okay, then we have the cycads. Cycads are your gymnosperm. Okay, the gymnosperms are the cycads. And for cycads usually they have differentiated bodies. They have vascular bundles. Okay, they bear fruit. They bear seeds. Okay, they bear fruits. Okay, present in them, and then they have seeds. But the seeds actually that they bear are open. Okay, we have open seeds. They are open seeds, and then we have the maize. Of course, this is the highest level of advancement of the plant, the angiosperms. Okay, the angiosperms, the maize is an example because they are differentiated bodies, they have vascular bundles, they have also, apart from vascular bundles, they bear fruits and they bear seeds, and their seeds are enclosed, okay, inside of the fruit. So we can say these one angiosperms are vascular plants, okay, they are vascular plants, okay, because they are vascular tissues. The gymnosperm also have they are vascular plants because they are vascular tissues. The pteridophytes are vascular bundles, okay, they have vascular tissues, they are vascular, plants. Also talophytes are non-vascular plants, non-vascular, and then we have the bryophytes, they also are non-vascular plants. So the question says that examples of non-vascular plants are labeled. The ones we have that are non-vascular are Roman figure 1 and Roman figure 2. So the Mercantia and Spirogyra actually are the non-vascular plants. So let's move on to the screen to see the options that best fit in. Option A says Roman figure 1 and Roman figure 2. That's the bryophyte, the Mercantia and the Spirogyra. Yes. Option B says 1 and 3. No. C says this, and then this says 2 and 4. So the correct answer is option A, Roman figure 1 and Roman figure 2. I believe you enjoyed this content. Yes, because I really did enjoy solving these questions. If you do, please don't forget to click on the like button, hit the subscribe button, and finally tap on the notification bell to keep you informed once we upload our next video.